Good morning to all of you here and to our viewers online. The Ministry of Environment has been organizing the Climate Week for the 5th year in a row in order to raise awareness. This week we had a huge number of companies, NGOs and institutions participating in the Climate Week. Green transformation is one of the key priorities for every single member state and the EU as a whole. European member states will do their best to reduce greenhouse gases to a greater extent, and that measures are taken to achieve the collective goal to become climate neutral by 2050. Today we are meeting to discuss the success that we have already achieved by renewing the national energy and climate plans in Estonia, Latvia and Poland. We will also discuss the way our countries are planning to embark and continue with green transformation. I'm now inviting Simonas Gentvilas, the Minister of Environment, to open this conference. Dear guests, I'm extremely pleased to finalize this Climate Week with our partners from the Baltic countries and Poland, with the friends and partners from a number of institutions and organizations. The things that we will discuss today are the result of our joint effort, and they are related to decarbonization, to disconnecting from fossil fuel. I'm extremely happy that this week quite a number of NGOs, public institutions, scientific institutions held a number of wonderful events all around Lithuania. They involved tens of thousands of participants throughout the country, starting with the national environmental exam and going down to various events for students. Thank you very much for the efforts that you have put into it. With every year, the awareness is getting bigger, and we are pleased about that. Today, the Ministry of Environment has invited you to join this finalizing event to discuss our national plans, to discuss the process of decision-making, and to compare ourselves against a wider context. The documents that form the basis for our actions within the framework of the Green Deal and within the framework of our national policies are the National Climate Change Agenda, Change Management Agenda, which has been approved some time ago. This agenda is even more ambitious in terms of emission goals than the goals set by the European Union on the basis of the effort-sharing mechanism. Lithuania has a more ambitious national policy compared to that of the EU, and Lithuania is exceptional in the sense that the national climate change goals are related to specific sectors. Quite a number of countries and member states have a national emissions reduction goals. They are not those goals, they are not shared among different sectors. And then there are issues with the final result, because different sectors and different ministries do not seem to achieve the right goals. We decided to choose a different path, to set separate goals and objectives for separate sectors, and then each single ministry will have to take care of achieving those goals. We are an industrial country. 20% of Lithuania's GDP is being created by industrial companies, and this means that the ETS sector is also a rather broad sector. We have over 20 megawatts of power, installed, and we are producing a lot of mineral products, and quite a number of companies are responsible for the greenhouse gases. The ETS sector will expand with time, and more companies will have to join the emissions trading system. On the other hand, 70% of our emissions are also related to our household sector, and they are mainly related to transport, agriculture, and small energy units. In order to change this trend and to reduce emissions, Lithuania undertook the obligation to renew the National Energy and Climate Plan. We decided to do it in a less bureaucratic way by involving as wide a circle of institutions as possible. We called it a decarbonization process, and the majority of you sitting here in this room participated in that process. 5 different ministries, 300 various organizations participated in the review, and we received over 600 proposals on how to do that. OECD also looked through our new version of the National Energy and Climate Plan and reviewed all the initiatives that we suggested. All of you participated in the preparation of the new National Energy and Climate Plan, which encompasses both the emitting sector and other ministries that are more responsible for production, for science. And together we developed a plan on how to achieve the best result for the smallest amount of money possible, and at the same time help our academic sector improve. And this is the way the review path looked like. We have already presented the initial results to the European Commission and to the society at large. After we receive the comments from the European Commission, we will also develop the final version of this plan. That would be it about the documents. And what about the actual situation and our result? Europe is a continent or an economic unit that has set clear climate goals for itself, and there is a clear policy, subsidy policy, taxation policy behind it, which covers both various metals and other sectors. We clearly see that Lithuania has taken several important decisions in the field of fiscal regulation and in the field of economy. And I have in mind the excise duty law, which has been adopted this year. So having all this in mind, we will be able to achieve our goals to reduce our emissions by 2030 by 21%. And we will have savings stemming from all sectors. So financial regulation, taxation, and other measures allow us to achieve our climate goals by 2030. Certainly, we need a number of preconditions for this to happen. First of all, the new technologies have to be affordable. Private capital has to be able to invest. We also see that the interest rate went up by 4%, and that makes private investment more expensive. But we are optimistic, and we will continue along the same path. We are already taking action today. As I said, we have different goals for different sectors. Let's start with the transport sector. The transport sector is mainly regulated by our national policies and less regulated by Brussels directives and regulations. As of 2027, the ETS will apply to the transport sector, and we will have to include the CO2 generated in the transport sector into the fuel cost. Here we see the biggest opportunities to achieve better results, mainly in the field of private car fleet. We need a lot of investment here to renew our car fleet, our transport fleet, and there will be no easy wins. We do not have the silver bullets that would make the magic needed. At the beginning of our tenure, we suggested a pollution tax imposed, but this pollution tax did not receive the right support. But we can reduce transport emissions by decarbonizing railways and heavy-duty transport and by improving our energy efficiency. The excise and CO2 package that was adopted this spring provides for a decremental increase by 2030, which will allow to ensure better energy efficiency, and as a result, both inhabitants and businesses will be buying more efficient cars with less powerful engines and will be using more environmentally friendly alternatives, or collective car-sharing alternatives will be more popular, and this will have a proper impact that we are striving for. Together with OECD, this spring, namely in April, we discussed the excise package and also the opportunities to tax CO2 emissions in all sectors. The agricultural sector is also mainly regulated by national policies, strongly regulated by national policies, and the emissions goals in this particular sector are the smallest. Emissions have to be reduced by 11% in the agricultural sector. From 2005 to 2030, this reduction will have to be achieved, but this is the most difficult sector to change or to mitigate, because with every single unit of production, emissions are increasing, and there are no easy innovations to introduce to reduce those CO2 emissions. Still, we have support mechanisms ready, especially in biomethane production, and by 2030, we are planning to introduce 1.5 gigawatt hours of biomethane installations. And according to our cost-benefit analysis, €1 invested into biomethane subsidies give the biggest return in terms of greenhouse gas savings. And this encompasses everything, starting with renovation and going down to afforestation. Biomethane tools are most effective, and we would like to see a breakthrough in this particular area. Industry sector. A lot of changes have happened during the energy war, and there were suggestions regarding limitations to the support provided to business. These limitations have been set by the European Union in order to prevent artificial competitiveness being created. Still, we see that the emissions are supposed to go down drastically here. Small energy sector. This is the energy production sector with a capacity of less than 20 megawatt. Here, we receive a lot of RRF support and European support. And the energy sector has already been decarbonize to a great extent. And we also need to continue with decarbonization in private households with the aim to ensure the right conversion. Waste management sector. Here we have a novelty, that is food waste sorting. Sorted food waste has to be used to ensure greater decarbonization. In addition to that, we also developed a network of combined heat and power plants. Estonia has one such a plant. Latvians are planning others. And if we are not using the industrial waste, we are not participating in the ETS. In order to reduce our emissions, we can also use our nature. Lithuania is second in Europe according to industrial and physical emissions that are being absorbed by the nature. Only Sweden is doing better in that respect. And all these calculations are being made by using the LULUSF methodology. Forestry is important, and the absorption potential of our nature is going down gradually because of our forests getting more mature and because of a more intensive agriculture that is mainly producing cereal and grain. And this means that this type of agriculture does not absorb nitrogen. In Lithuania, we have a challenge to absorb more with the help of our nature, but because of the changing structure of our forestry, because of our choices in agriculture, we do not use our huge potential to the full extent. A few more words about energy sector. Renewable energy sources become clearly the only alternative, at least we would like to see it as such. Still, we see that quite a number of sectors decided to invest into petroleum gas recently. And for example, poultry sector invested into liquefied petroleum gas quite a lot. And even greenhouse farmers decided to do so as a long-term solution. Still, the renewable energy goals of Lithuania are clearly revolutionary. We already announced the first tender for the wind plant, offshore wind plant, and we are planning to embark on another project related to photovoltaic energy, and investment into that sector have already been planned. And with those plans implemented, Lithuania will meet its energy needs, and as a result, the renewable energy sources will amount to 70% of all the energy needs by 2030 in Lithuania. These are impressive figures. What concerns wind energy, our Environmental Protection Agency has already issued permissions for over 8 gigawatt of installation. According to the report on the impact on the environment, we also see that the capacity could be several times greater. The cheapest energy is the unused energy. Still, our households are using a lot of energy resources. Industry is really rational and calculating their costs every year, day to day. But in our private households, this is not the case. Therefore, we see that housing renovation could be a solution And here we can use the RRF fund. We will review our housing renovation model, and hopefully we will manage to promote greater renovation. To sum up, all the goals that we have set for ourselves are based on specific calculations, and together with the 5 ministries involved, we already know how the financing plan look like, and we know the way our green transformation will look like. Thanks to all the EU instruments that you are aware of, we will be able to implement that. In addition, we will have several financial tools from our national budget to enable green transformation. The support, which amounts to 8 billion euros that have been planned by 2030, will be co-financed by private investors, especially in the field of housing renovation. 30% will come from the EU or the national budget, and the remaining 70% from private funds. Same goes for boilers. Private investment will be 2 or 3 times greater because of the support that will be provided. The renovation that we have been planned will require approximately 25 billion euros of investment, and there will be a need for divestment in other sectors for us not to continue investing into petroleum gas. In parallel, we need to divest from those sectors, because if we have a lot of emitting sectors in parallel, this means that we will need to find more and better ways to save in other areas. To finalize, the green transformation is a win-win for Lithuania. According to the European Commission, Lithuania will save and keep almost all jobs as a result of the green transformation, because we do not have coal mining nor gas industry. We're importing a lot of energy, gas, petroleum, and this costs us 6 billion euros per year. Those 6 billion euros can stay in Lithuania instead if we manage to improve our efficiency, if we manage to create opportunities to invest here in Lithuania. And this is a huge opportunity for Lithuania to experience economic growth. And as a result, jobs will be created. At the same time, we also face challenges, because there are sectors where it is difficult to achieve change. And first and foremost, this is the transport sector, housing renovation, which is a very inertial process. And if we remain consistent, we will have a lot of prospects here. And we also have industry, which requires a lot of investment. For example, Arkema requires over 1 billion euros. Cement producers also need a lot of investment, and the owners are eager to invest on the condition that the government policy and the European policy will be consistent. As of this October, carbon border adjustment mechanism will come into force, and this mechanism will help protect the highly emitting companies of Lithuania and Europe from their competitors in Asia and outside the EU. We have a database plan, an integral plan prepared that has been discussed both with the science and the industry, and this is our strength. If you have other suggestions, more effective suggestions, you're most welcome to share them with us. Hopefully, we will also hear suggestions from the European Commission. And still, Lithuania is abiding by the international obligations, and we will do our best to achieve a cleaner future.
Thank you, Minister. I will keep you for a minute here. We will have questions and answers for the discussion. But now the first and brief question. Can we do a kind of political pressure? Minister, in your mind, where you need the political support the most? You were talking about the vehicle pollution tax, which was a failure in the parliament. And where else we need the political support for your plan? Well, we think that parliament and government can solve all the problems, but we see also good practice examples where the municipalities solve the issues regarding the heating or fuel, climate and health problems. But this progress can be more active. For example, low pollution zones in the cities. This decision can be made by a lot of municipalities right now. And now the drive and the bravery is needed for the municipalities, but also for the central government. For example, to declare some areas in this city about low pollution or zero pollution. So I think municipalities are able to do that on their own. There are rich or less or poorer municipalities, and we have Tauragė as a good example. Of course, we see also the fuel consumption and air pollution. We have now 3 to 4% more fuel consumed, so from 2 billion of diesel used in Lithuania, 3 to 4% is a lot of. So if we need the unified transition, we need less fossil fuel to consume. And the transport sector is the most hopeless, I think, investment both in micro and macroeconomical level. So we need to pay attention to this sector because it needs a lot of public investments. And here in Lithuanian level, we do not have huge progression in this progress in this level. Thank you, Minister. And now we will have the guest presenters. If you need interpretation, please take the headset. Now I'm asking Mr. Dagnis Dubrovskis, Deputy State Secretary, Ministry of Climate and Energy of the Republic of Latvia, to present the Latvian plan and progress.
Very fruitful meeting and conversation about climate targets. And now I would like to present you Latvian climate goals and measures. And for the beginning, I don't know why it doesn't work. Presentation, sorry. There are some technical issues, yes. works. So the first slide in my presentation represents how is the rate of emissions per one inhabitant or per capita. And if we talk about our Baltic states and about our Baltic states, we can see that emissions decreased dramatically after collapsing of Soviet Union because industry was collapsed. But now we should to keep way to reducing of emissions in more ways way. And if we talk about emissions per one capita, then in Latvia we have one from the smallest amount between European countries. And sorry, it's still some problems. There are some. Yes, we have our targets set by European Commission, and compared with Lithuania, we have targets a little bit different, because we should to reach renewable energy level till year of 2030, 57%. We should to improve our energy efficiency to 25.9 terawatts. And if we talk about greenhouse gas reductions, then our target is to reduce it by 17% till year of 2030. And if we talk about LULUCF sector, our target is much less than you have. It's only 0.644 kilotons CO2 equivalent. If we talk about what is mine sectors where we have the biggest amount of emissions, we set 3 mine sectors. It is transport, it is agriculture, and industry processes. And our researchers do calculations how much money we should to invest in transformation. And in this right picture, you can see that each step, each percent costs more, and it is not easy to find best measures and to combine these measures for reaching of 17%. In Latvia, the biggest amount of emissions goes to non-ETS sector. ETS sector produce only 19% of emissions. And as I mentioned before, the main sectors are agriculture, transport, and other non-ETS energy. As Lithuania, also Latvia are working for new energy and climate action plan, and we set our roadmap, and transformation in our legislation is needed, new acts, and we evaluate what we have as a strong part and what we should to do. And if we talk about what what we have as a resources, we have geographical circumstances, we have good possibility to invest and develop windmills. We have good potential for electrification and good possibility to invest public finance and also private finance. And we have two directions in our climate plan. First is related with climate resilience, other is with energy. And if we talk about the main topic, then it is climate resilience, sustainability of economy and products with high added value. And we are working for relying more on Latvian resources. If we talk about roadmap to affordable energy, again, we have good structure for advantage of natural resources to use biomass for energy purpose, strongest existing infrastructure, liberalization markets, and of course I think it is quite similar as in Lithuania. We should to improve our security of supply. We should to decarbonize economy and energy export, improving welfare. As I know, Lithuania submit the climate plan to Euro Commission. We are still in the progress because due to some calculations what we should to do more and some government changes, we are late, but we still are working to submit our plan till the end of November, and now this our climate and energy plan is sent for ministries and for politicians, and public discussion. Second round will start after November, but we are in the progress to submit it to European Commission. Also, as Lithuania, also we did some public consultations, 6 stakeholder working groups established, and these working groups worked for the measures in different sectors. All these measures we evaluate, our researchers evaluate and put in our climate plan. If we talk about sectoral projections, in this slide you can see actual values, projected values for 2030, baseline scenarios, climate and energy plan policy scenarios and targets. And of course you can see that there are different sectors where we prognose to reach our goals, but still we have some problems, and we should to manage it more efficient way, as for example IPPU and agriculture sector. Also we should to increase sequestration in LULUCF sector and to work for the more effective measures. Main measures: increased current targets and setting new and sectoral targets for renewables and energy efficiency, revised target for transport, new target for public bodies, continuation and intensification of support programs for buildings, companies and districts and individual heating, greenhouse gas emission, intensity reduction obligation for fuel suppliers, obligations for municipalities, transport and for public services providers, renewable electricity for self-consumption, and comprehensive afforestation, especially for organic soils. And one from the issues for good success is to have good data and using good modeling methods which are effective for different sectors and enterprises. Therefore, this year we established new state research program, decision-making support system for achieving climate neutrality. And as I listened yesterday, Lithuania are very strong in modeling, and we hope to more collaborate and to have good collaboration for future in this field. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I have one question for you. As Mr. Simonas Gentvilas said, and you also mentioned that the biggest polluter is the transport sector.
Yeah.
So maybe you have already discovered effective measures to reduce pollution in this sector, and what could other countries learn from Latvia?
Yeah, when I listened, Mr. Minister, I realized that we have common problems because we have big amount of old cars in Latvia, and we should to use more renewable energy for transportation. And the one big direction for development is to use more electrical cars and to develop special infrastructure for such purposes.
So, thank you. Thank you, guests from Latvia.
Thank you.
Na ir dabar norėčiau pakviesti Lenkijos atstovę Martą Kocon, Lenkijos
Now I'm
Respublikos
inviting
klimato ir
Marta Kocon from Poland, advisor to the Energy Policy Unit of the Ministry of Climate and Environment of the Republic of Poland.
Daily work is like definitely working on those documents, collaborating with people who are engaged in process to conduct the whole process. So as everyone knows, like since 5 years we have one document which should incorporate whole targets and whole agendas for climate and for activities in the whole economy, but it's not that easy at all, as you also know, because there are so many ministers and so many measures which should be incorporated in one document in one way, because there are also some so many interests in that. So we are working now also on keeping the NECP in everyone's mind, that there is the most important document in country, actually, that it's the most important roadmap for conducting the economy. And it's not that easy so much, like for every day. And as I also could see yesterday, it's also your problems, I mean, also Latvia and Lithuania. So we already could see that the second document, which is like update, already there is a movement in that. We did some effort on that, so hopefully this will be working even better. So we are in the similar situation that Latvia is. I mean, we didn't didn't submit the update to European Commission. There are so many circumstances which are like the responsible for that. We spent some time on working so deeply, so detailed on the proposition of Fit for 55. We did so many like in-depth analysis to catch if those targets which are proposed on the field of European discussion, which are if they are really realistic, if we are really able to fulfill the needs which are like open because of them. As we also yesterday were talking, there are some targets on the table which we even don't have the statistical data for that. So if we don't have even the knowledge where we are, it's very difficult to say if we can agree for those kind of targets. So we also have the feeling that our current NSCP it's no longer adequate for the situation, because it lasts just a few years and the situation changed so much. Not only because of the circumstances which are like normal change of technologies, which are the main reason why we should update our documents, but also the situation with Russia invasion had a huge impact on our situation. I mean, we had to decide very quickly that we quit from the fossil fuels from Russia, and we had to make it like so fast. We Poland were quite a good situation in that reason, because we already had some investments which were provided years ago. I mean, for example, Baltic Pipe, which enable us to stop importing the gas from Russia. But still, there were so many circumstances which had to be done faster than it was planned before. So it also made us to have this stronger feeling that we need our sovereignty. I mean, we all want to cooperate with other countries, but if we take a look on the import, we need to have this feeling that we can be self-sufficient in many ways. If we are not able to be self-sufficient, then we have to make much more effort on diversification of the import. So we are so similar in many fields, but we are also very different in many fields. Our history is maybe quite similar, but also we are different in ways that we are bigger. I mean, Poland is bigger than your country, so the planning process is completely different. We also have so much coal still in our country, in our economy. It's not only electricity. If you take a look in electricity map, which is provided by ENSOI, you can see this brown island, which is Poland, but it's on the historical basis. We did so big effort. And if you can take a look just only the current picture, you cannot see that clearly. If you just take a look like 10 years behind, we changed a lot. And also investment which were taken last year, the majority was in renewables actually. So we should like take a look on each other, taking also into account where we were a few years ago. So even if we take a look on renewables targets, you can see that our proposal, like previous proposal, because all targets which are present are from current NCP, which was submitted to Commission in 2019. We made a target which is like 23%, but it's completely different in megatons if you compare it. So it's a big effort also for us. What are the main challenging conditions for us? We are still have a feeling that we are developing so much. If you take a look on Warsaw from 10, 15 years ago, but not only on Warsaw, which is capital, but also on the smaller city and in towns, you could see really huge difference. So going deeply in development and the same time changing the energy intensity, it's a very confusing and challenging us. So if you take a look on the emissions by sector, you can see that the effort in last years wasn't that shockingly beautiful. And also you could see, I put it here, the 2021, we still get back to the not good direction. I mean, there is still a growth. So it shows also how we still have a hunger for development. To the NECP, we link a few strategies, sectoral strategies. It is energy policy, it's for agriculture, for transport, for the whole ecological issues, also the regional parts, productivity, and so on. It's quite difficult to incorporate it, as I said before, but also now we have to add the other documents, other targets from the European field, and it's really difficult for us. We already feel that we are already on very let's say developing way, that we already went on this path, which is like decarbonization path, but it's important for us to go on this path with our own pace, which from in our opinion is already very demanding and challenging. So our current goals are like -7% in CO2 emissions in non-ETS, then 14 renewable energy in transport, which is really challenging us because the transport in Poland is like it's flat, still like between 5 and 6%. Few years ago, we even had the depth because there was development in transport usage, and the technology and blending and so on doesn't go so fast to fulfill those targets. Electromobility, which is like very visible in Poland to be promoted, is not also like going that fast to fulfill this development in RES in Poland. So our goal in heating is also very difficult, 1.1 growth annually, because we have also so much district heating based on coal. So fulfilling also the definition of energy efficient system and taking into account that in every 2 years the definition will be changed, it's challenging people to have changes in systems. And even though the RED III shows that the target will be even stronger, so this is very confusing us. Energy efficiency, it was 23% in primary and energy consumption, comparing with prognosis from Primes 2007, and we already take a look that if we compare new targets of Fit for 55, it is like 40% for us. And as I already said, energy efficiency probably will be the most demanding from us to change, taking into account that we also want to exploit to make a big effort in electromobility, because it's also going up with the energy consumption if you make a big effort on electromobility. We did 96 pumps for previous NECP policy and measures. Some of them will be changed, for example, for bigger scope, or we will add some of them. As I already said, we have the feeling that we are already on the path. So how we will take our scenarios in NECP? The VEM scenario will be not BAU, that you business as usual, that you cut in one moment. It will be our realistic scenario that shows where we are going and how we feel that how we calculate that it's real and it's reasonable, and we have enough technological also possibilities, abilities to fulfill those targets. What is achievable. But on the other hand, we also have so many targets from Fit for 55, which are really demanding. And we decided that we will put all those targets which are in Fit for 55 to the VAM scenario, even if it's from our opinion, in our opinion, not achievable, because we wanted to calculate how big effort we should make. It's also for our knowledge, but also to cooperate with the Commission, to show them what is our real opinion, where we could be, because there are so many circumstances. All countries of all member states are so different, and it must be taken into account. So there is a comparison of our approach to VAM scenario and FAM scenario, and comparison with current NECP. So as you can see, this blue part, which is like our real scenario, you can see so many times analytical. So we want those goals to be fulfilled at all. But then on this side, you have those main targets from the Fit for 55. For example, if we take a look on renewables in transport, which is like third from down, you can see that we have 14%. So compare it then with 29%, which is like goal from Fit for 55. We already feel that it's so much challenging for us, and then we can see that it's even more than twice to achieve those goals. As I already said, for example, in primary energy consumption, if you compare it the new target, those numbers 13.5 with but taking into account the prognosis, not Primes 2020 but Primes 2007, it would be like 40%. So comparing 40% and 23%, it's like huge. Also, still taking into account how much we want to develop still. So where we are, we did some kind of scenario, but only for electricity, which is a base for us to start the pre-consultations. We wanted people to take like depth look. What is the new plan? How we assess the new situation after the invasion of Russia and so on. And also, we know that electricity is not the main part of energy spending in Poland, because half of energy is spent on heating and cooling, mostly for heating, not for cooling. And electricity is only like 22%. But in our mind, electricity is the most important. I mean, in Polish mind, there is so much discussion. So it shows the directions where we will go with decarbonization, like at all. What we have focused on. So as I already said, energy independence for us is very important, and to use in optimal way our domestic raw materials and capacity of power. Also very important is ensuring the energy stability, to have the system stable, to be independent in that way. It doesn't mean that we will not import the electricity from other countries, but we need to have this feeling that we are able, that our citizens will and our companies will have enough energy. Still, the main goal is to develop renewable energy sources as well as develop nuclear energy, because it's our approach how to change from coal, actually. So nuclear and mostly the offshore wind power plants will be the most important capacity, exchanging coal from our capacity system. And as I already mentioned, we are still mining country, so this component of just transition to support those regions and those people who work in that, and they are really strong, like inside. So they are really, really demanding partner for discussions. We have to take care of them and to support them how to change their current way of living and the face of the region in a new way. So as you can see, there is a capacity. There's a capacity and there is electricity production. So in 10 years, we want to actually double the zero emission capacity. And of course, here in 2040, there is already nuclear power. So there is the actual difference between the share, like here and here in electricity production and in installed capacity. And I can say that this one is like really, we really like this graph, because it already shows us as a green, comparing to our black face now. It's really really nice to see. About investment, this is comparison. Maybe it's a quite difficult slide to show, but first there is a scenario of let's say. WEM scenario in NECP, which is the same as in our energy policy of Poland. And those are expenditures for those new projections for third scenario, which was for pre-consultations. So as you can see, the expenditures are like double. But what it will give us, it will be like 6% in reduction of emissivity until 2040, which is a huge effort, taking into account where we start. And also the emission production, like not emissivity, but emission production is like 65. So as I previously showed you the slide with the emissions, the biggest effort in emission cutting will be definitely energy sector. It's all the time also about the statistics. If you compare the GHG data, if you compare then the final energy consumption, we talk about different things, because in one data, the industry is parted in totally different way than you compare it in GHG, summing ups. So it's also difficult for us to understand. So how to also explain it to people, how we cope with those goals. What are crucial conclusions from those pre-consultations and our previous work, also on Fit for 55? New focus area is energy sovereignty. It's really important for us, taking into account the previous situation. Also accelerate development of renewables, but then we open the huge pocket of challenges. How to go with energy stability of the system, so many new things on field. But we all know that we have to make it. Also because we want to be very attractive for investors. Taking into account, for example, carbon footprint. if there are coming investors from abroad, they just look in our goals and carbon footprint effort. There is a huge need for investments in grid and storage infrastructure. Without this, our targets can be only on paper. And it's not only about having money, it's also about the real technical abilities to conduct it. When you take into account also how many companies has to be arranged for that, you have to also think about the sustainability of those companies. If they are only for 2 years, or you want them to be on the market like longer, to build this economy in longer time. We also have already the agreement that our very important part is to decommission coal from households. For example, as I know, in Latvia, you don't use coal. It's for you completely not understandable how it's possible, but still, yes, so much coal is in Polish furnaces in houses. So definitely, even mining sector agreed for that. So our goal is to have enough coal for our electricity sector, and only for this, and that will be the way how to decommission coal at all in very very sustainable way. There are so many challenges on the table which we have to cope with, and the time is like going so fast, and still new targets on the European table. So even though we have so much to do with our current problems, we want to make a really big effort on hydrogen, on biomethane, and other new technologies which will make our economy developed and really attractive for investors, and to be a really nice country for our citizens. So thank you for your attention. I hope that it didn't took too long, but I already take a look on my watch, and I see what the time is. So thank you so much.
So thank you. Yes, the time is running so fast, so maybe I will leave my questions for the discussion. So thank you. Ir iš tiesų dabar turėsime paskutinę pristatymą.
Now we will have the last
iš kolegų iš
presentation
Estijos,
from Estonian
turėtume-
colleagues. We will see Kristi Klaas, Deputy Secretary General, Ministry of Climate of the Republic of Estonia.
See me well. First of all, I would like to apologize for not being there with you. I've been listening to you starting from the beginning, and you seem to have very interesting discussions there, so I would love to be there. But our government has been very ambitious, starting from taking the office in spring already, but there have been big developments in Estonia currently in relation with climate. So these speedy things are keeping me here today. Just to give you a few hints. So first of all, the big thing, or the big decision what the government has done, is that the Ministry of Climate was created. It was almost a bit more than 100 days ago now. And now in one ministry, we have all environmental aspects, energy, transport, housing, and maritime affairs as well. So basically 90% of all greenhouse gas emissions fall under our responsibility. And also 2 additional big decisions were taken. So we launched the climate law process. I will go into it a little bit later. So this is actually the thing what is keeping me here in Tallinn currently. And for that reason, I wasn't able to come there in person. So few but important things that we have on the table right now, but I will go through my slides and give you a little bit more insight into this. So I know we are behind the schedule, so I tried to be fast, faster than 15 minutes that was foreseen. See here on the first line on the timeline, you will see Estonia's goals related to climate change mitigation, and including also the obligations from the European Union. In May 2021, the Estonian Parliament approved our long-term development strategy. It's called Estonia 2035, in which Estonia took the national climate neutrality goal for the year 2050. And at the same time, the Estonia 2035 action plan sets an intermediate goal for the net greenhouse gas emissions of 8 million tons, which means that there should be approximately 80% decrease compared to 1990 levels of CO2 equivalents by 2035. And in addition to the national goals, of course, as you all, Estonia must also fulfill the obligations set by the European Union by 2030, which are related to ESR sector and LULUCF. As of 2021, total GHG emissions have decreased by a little bit more than by 57% compared to 1990 levels. And it's primarily due to the reduction in the volumes of oil shale power plants. And the preliminary results that we have from previous year, from GHG inventory, it shows that our emissions increased almost by 14% compared to the previous year. And of course, we know what the reasons have been behind there: the energy crisis and the war have increased the production of electricity from oil shale. At the same time, both in 2021 and 2022, we were undeniably extraordinary in the European Common Internal Energy Market, as the general trend of greenhouse gas emissions from the energy and industrial sectors is still projected to continue falling. Now going to LULUCF sector, first of all, I must emphasize that the graph shows very preliminary data. Our experts are currently changing the biomass methodology from stock difference to gain and loss in the LULUCF sector. So on this graph, only forest land has been calculated using the new methodology. And the data and numbers in other land categories are from the previous inventory report and will change very soon. And the reason behind changing the methodology is that it fits better to our forestry and land use sector. It takes more aspects into account. According to the greenhouse gas inventory, LULUCF sector has been a net emitter since 2014. Of course, it poses a significant challenge for us in achieving both the 2030 targets and also the long-term goals. According to very preliminary estimates, forest land is a carbon sink, and harvested wood products and grasslands have been net sinks. Now going to ESR target. So Estonia national ESR target for 2030 was raised from -13% to -24% compared to 2005 emissions, and the red line on the graph then illustrates that. It is an overall goal of the sectors under ESR, and we still need to decide how it will then be distributed among the different sectors which fall under the ESR sector. And of course, it is one of the challenges also during our climate law process, as all the sectors are very eager to know what their share will be, so that they could plan better their investments. As a result of the implementation of existing measures, Estonia is moving towards the fulfillment of the previous obligation, which is the -13%. Therefore, it's very important that we implement also additional measures to achieve new obligations. Road transport and heating and cooling of buildings hold the largest immediate potential for reducing emissions. And some of the new measures have been put already on the table. Of course, the main point where the new measures will be discussed is again the climate law process, but the government has put also the vehicle tax proposal on the table, which is discussed currently very actively. So in all together, the draft National Energy and Climate Plan covers more than 100 measures in 7 different sectors. The biggest sectors, as everybody else, I suppose, are energy, agriculture and transport, and building stock, where the number of measures varies from almost 20 to 25 measures, and the other sectors have less measures in place. Yes, and as I said, additional measures that need to be discussed. Now coming to the climate law process, which I have mentioned already a couple of times, we started the process in September, and we created a separate climate council as well, which functions as a let's say advisory body to the whole process, and which consists of different representatives from academia, and experts, so that we could have an advice throughout the process, and we have seen it has been a very useful tool also in other countries. So according to the time schedule, the draft law should be ready in April next year, and the planned date of adoption is 1st of January 2025. So a lot of discussions are already going on and waiting for us in the nearest months. Few words also about the general green reform in Estonia. The Estonian government has adopted a green reform action plan until 2025, and it includes 52 different activities in 11 different sectors, and it's the first time when actually the green reform as such has been dedicated or been put as a task for a specific ministry. So Ministry of Climate is coordinating the country-wide implementation of this plan, and there just to give you examples. For example, we have a goal to measure all the environmental and greenhouse gases footprint of all the public sector public sector bodies basically during one calendar year, so that we would actually know where our biggest footprints are and what could be the measures to reduce it. And of course, there are a lot of different measures in addition to that, but we do see that the government and public sector needs to be a front runner and needs to really take action in order to also encourage the private sector to come along with all these developments. Actually, it was actually already adopted last year in 2022 that we have a goal to produce 100% renewable energy from, let's say, 100% of renewable energy by 2030. In comparison with the amount of electricity that we are using by that year. It doesn't mean that only electricity from renewable sources will be allowed in the grid, but we will increase the amount of production of renewable electricity by more than 3 times in 7 years. And all the developments that have taken place, give us the reassurance that this goal is achievable. Of course, a lot of work needs to be done, and we have prepared different amendments to the law, which would speed up and encourage the development of renewable electricity. The target for renewable energy in the final energy consumption, which also includes heating and transport fuel, will rise accordingly also from 42% to 65%. And finally, a few words about just transition in Ida-Virumaa, in northeast of Estonia. Estonia's biggest polluter, the oil shale sector, is highly concentrated, specifically in Ida-Virumaa region, resulting in the fact that over 50% of Estonia's total GHG emissions are produced exactly in that region. As we phase out oil shale in the energy sector, of course, multiple negative socio-economic impacts need to be mitigated in the long-term development of the region. Needs to be secured. Our territorial just transition plan was adopted in October last year. Our focus in implementing the just transition fund is on future-proofing and diversifying Ida-Viru's economy and labor. All in all, approximately 80% of the funds volume in Ida-Virumaa will be invested in reaching this goal. And by now, calls in all interventions aimed at enterprises are open. And the first project has entered also the construction phase. So the new factories are showing their interest in investing in that region. So a magnet factory by NEO Performance Materials near Narva started their factory construction. Well, I will end here. Thank you very much.
So thank you, and I will ask not to leave this meeting because now we have a discussion. So I would like to invite here our prelegents. So please sit here. Pradėsime diskusiją ir iš tiesų diskusija, kad
we will start our discussion where I will ask questions in Lithuanian, and then the guests will have the opportunity to answer in English. I think that you will have questions, so you will have also opportunity to raise the questions. we will proceed our meeting with the discussion on green transformation challenge opportunity. What can we learn from each other? And to start, to warm up, I have a question which is both complicated and simple. So, dear Minister, we will ask about that green transformation is both challenge and advantage. But when we see the society and interested subjects, they are focused more on challenges rather than advantages. So the question is, how can we find the balance and show the interested subjects to more advantages rather than challenges? It is a very good question. Even if we don't have climate change, we will benefit from this strategy because politicians often talk about regional workplaces and jobs. So green transition jobs are very regional. If we go to the countryside, we see Polish engineers living in the hotels who are building the wind power installations in the regions. Also, biomass, from biomethane to solar energy and wind energy, are all the jobs that are created in this. So politicians want to create jobs in the regions and enable the cohesion policy, not even in Vilnius, but also in regional places. Therefore, Akmenė, Tauragė, Pagėgiai are developing in very huge progress, and we do not see any criminal activities as it was, but now they are focusing on green. And for example, in Estonia, in Narva region, where they have to close the emitting factories, we are also at better place than Poland, where they have coal and burn more than 85% of the whole Europe in coal, and we do not lose jobs. And 6 billion euro that we pay for the electricity and diesel, we could have paid this money for the Lithuanian businesses who generate local energy and attract a lot of investments from foreign businesses. When we speak about national defense, we see that military locations are good, but if foreign investors come to Lithuania and invest into wind power for 10 or decades of years. So I think that people who would like to defend this land are the ones who have invested in their industry. So green transition is not less important than military divisions in to defend national security. So green policy and national defense are of equal importance. So even if climate does not change, green transition will make Lithuania richer and safer. So I think that it is also economical development strategy. What about the situation in Latvia? How can you provide this strategy to the public that they see it more as an advantage than an issue?
how we will really get into them. So what we did now during the climate law process, that we introduced a new initiative to develop the climate neutrality roadmaps for different industrial sectors. And this is actually what also Sweden has done already a couple of years ago, where they introduced a similar process. And it was the one where actually they came to a solution that CO2-free steel production can really, it's really doable. So now there have been a few first sectors who are getting interest into developing those roadmaps. The first one actually was the Estonian chemical industry. So we really do see that if in cooperation with the private sector, we are able to really think through step by step, how we are going to reduce the emissions, and at the same time to implement the advantages, then we can come to really those answers that are needed. So how we are going to achieve those advantages that we are talking about.
Thank you. Ir aš vėl įsijungsiu į lietuvių kalbą.
I'm switching to Lithuanian
Iš tiesų,
again.
sudėtinga tema, tai investicijos ir lėšų mobilizavimas.
Investment and
Ir kiekvienas iš
mobilizing
pranešėjų palietė šį
resources
klausimą, iš tiesų
is a
matėme
complex
didžiulius
issue.
skaičius. Tad nesikartosiu,
Every
bet
presenter
norėčiau
spoke
paliesti
about
šiek tiek
money.
kitą kampą ir
I will
pakalbėti apie
not
privačias
reiterate myself,
investicijas.
but I would like
Turbūt
to
vien
bring you
biudžeto
back to
lėšų
private
niekada
investment.
neužteks ir
We
neužtenka.
will
Tai
not
kalbant
have
apie
budgetary
privačias
resources
investicijas,
enough to do it
kaip
all. We
sekasi
need
jas
to attract
pritraukti
private
ir
investment.
į kurį
How
sektorių
are you doing
lengviausia
in
jas
that
pritraukti?
respect, and
Šiek
which
tiek
of the
patirtimi
sectors is
pasidalinimas,
easiest
iš
to
tiesų, kaip kiekvienai
attract
šaliai
private
sekasi su
investment?
privačiomis
Could each of the
investicijomis ir
countries
į kurį
share
sektorių jūsų
their
remiantis jūsų
situation
patirtimi
with
yra
private
lengviausia
investment, and
pritraukti?
which of the sectors is easiest to attract private investors? Please, Mr. Minister. Lithuania is a leader in terms of prosumers, numbers of prosumers. We do have impressive numbers of citizens who are producing their own electricity. And we have a wonderful scheme in our country that we can boast about in the whole of Europe and the world. For that, you need a really good distribution network. You need to have a powerful grid to be able to redistribute this electricity. It was thanks to the private investment from the household sector. Subsidies are good to have, but in general, the inhabitants invested into it. We have difficulty in getting rid of gas-fired boilers, because boilers can operate for a number of years, and they are not using coal, they are using gas. It's cleaner than coal, and it will be difficult to make them switch from gas to renewable energy sources. Therefore, subsidies would be really helpful. And even if we subsidize 50%, still the remaining 50% amount to 3,000 to 4,000 euros. And we have almost 2 million of private cars in Lithuania. You can imagine how much private individuals have to invest and how much of private capital they need to have in order for them to switch to more expensive electric vehicles. 10,000 at least per almost 2 million of cars, and that's a huge number of money which is required in order to convert to a cleaner but much more expensive car fleet. And if we monitor the websites where cars are sold, we will see that not such a huge supply is available. Thus, we need to help our people to switch from individual transport to buses and bicycles. We shouldn't hope to convert our transport fleet only with the help of private investment. And Poland has
Dėkui, so,
achieved a lot in
Mrs.
this respect.
Marta, maybe you can.
Marta, could you please comment?
So there is so much to say in this field, actually. First of all, there is so much hunger from the industry, energy sector, and so on to make investment. There are private money, there are public money to be used, but it's also about the catalog of things you can make, because not every single investment is like in a way with the current situation in which technologies you can invest, which are actually in need for this period time during we are switching from coal to renewables. I mean, for example, we are going from coal to the renewables, but then we need in this time, for example, gas to have stable system. But then there are difficulties in financing those kind of on investments. So there is a first field. Then there is a question for who is able to produce some technologies, because you want to improve, for example, hydrogen, but from who you can buy the electrolyzers. If you want to have your own factory of electrolyzers in your own country, then you again need time to do that. So then if you want to invest also in renewables, there is a grid problem. As I already said, we put so much money in grid. They are doing so big effort, but it's all the time about technical issues. For example, in distribution, you have to keep those two directions movement, which is like difficult to fulfill if you want to have enough prosumers. In Poland, we had the goal of having 1 million of prosumers until 2030, and we already have more than 1 million. So people are hungry of new things, of being innovative, of taking green economy, but also we have to take a look into how technically it's possible. As I already said, also storage. If it's enough technological effort to switch in 2 days. No, the answer is no. We still need to put so much money in research and development to support the researchers, but they also need time to find ways which are really feasible, realistic, not again for 1 day, to be not feasible for our real long-term needs.
Mr. Dagnis.
Yes, this transformation and private investments are very important in Latvia. And during last years, we opened our energy sector for new investments in green energy. And at the moment, as I know, we have new projects for windmill enterprises to develop wind energy. But also, if we talk about broader and deeper, we should to look on the finance sector, because green taxonomy and do not significant harm principles for industries for future makes big transition in this field. And in my opinion, after 5 years, this green taxonomy will be one from the most important issues to get finance and do some investment. Therefore, from my point of view, it is very promising that this global transition will open more way to invest in our countries, because we are green and we have a lot of possibilities to develop.
Thank you, and Mrs. Christie.
So I would think that there are some core investments or the basic investments that need to be implemented in order that also the other transformations could take place. So these framework investments, so-called framework investments, would be those ones that are done in the energy sector, and those ones that are done in developing the public transportation. So I think the government should do everything to encourage these ones, because these investments will affect also the next ones that will be done. So when I would just give you a few examples also about the interests our private sector has currently, then I would point out the production of biomethane. There we see a lot of interest, a lot of projects going on. Then also we have pilot projects in green hydrogen production and usage, just to see where and how the whole chain, the hydrogen chain, could be implemented. Then we do have the first pilot projects in carbon-free asphalt. And now they have their first pilot roads in several municipalities in Estonia to see whether this asphalt really functions throughout all the seasons. So when those developments really prove to be efficient, then I think it really the next steps will come really fast. And as it was mentioned also by my colleague here, is that the financial sector, what we do see is that also that they are the front runners. They really influence the market just by the fact to which projects the financing is available and to which ones it is not. So it will certainly affect the developments in the coming years significantly.
Thank you. Tad noriu sugrįžti prie
I would like to get back to the plans, to the energy and climate plans, and in the vision of European Union agenda, they provided that the economy of member states until 2050 should become circular, climate neutral, and very green. So I would like to hear your opinion whether we will manage these targets and these goals by implementing these national plans that we have today. We have several trends we've seen in your presentation. So in your opinion, is it very realistic that our continent will become climate neutral? For this public, I think it is very obvious that we understand that we've managed climate change in terms of ozone and atmosphere, ozone hole and atmosphere layer. So it is possible, but we need global efforts to do that. So for our economists in this region, it is also very economically advantageous for health sector, for budget, for finances of inhabitants. So we are not as committed as we are interested in these changes. For example, Finland has committed to all the targets by 2035, not 2050. And talking about sectors that should flourish, we should say that everything that is generated or produced from oil, crude oil, should be changed to biomass. So we see, for example, plastic or metal in these chairs, we can change it to biomass, and we have the natural resources of biomass in these countries, and we do not use enough added value from biomass. For example, we burn half of our timber, and we've talked about wood construction, and we said that we will build our buildings from wood, from timber, according to our amended legislation. So we need natural resources, and we have them. We must use them and produce more added value because, for example, from our natural timber, we can earn 10 times more than from plastic or metal production. We can change textile by viscoses, and we have other sectors that can be improved. For example, Estonia has great plans for transport. We do not have any ambitions to become leader in transport sector because we are not producing vehicles. But we must talk about sectors realistically that can be used to produce, to generate the best added value, including technologies, and we can, improve and reach our goals. Mr.
Yes,
Dunn?
I agree. The key question is how we sequestrate carbon and substitute materials from plastic and steel to more friendly materials as wood, for example. And I think that it is question for the targets for 2050, because we know that LULUCF sector must compensate with sequestration those emissions from other sectors, and I think that it is a really big question for our forestry sector, and not only how to do it, because we should save carbon for a long time, not only for short period in some, for example, burning biomass. But I think that it is a question for researchers how to do it, because as we know, there are several technologies very promising in transport sector, but still not in the market. For example, if we talk about hydrogen, it is a question how to develop vehicles. Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin.
So Poland also agreed during the previous Council of Ministers on the European field that neutrality of European Union is our goal, with exception for Poland. As I already mentioned so many times, we are in a bit different situation. One more time, I'm speaking about the differences and about our circumstances. Even if we compare with each other, for example, if we compare with Scandinavia, so much energy from water, so it's much more easy to produce renewables. There is so much also wood to use. If you take a look on Poland, it looks like a table. There is no potential for water. We don't have nuclear. We had coal based on these historical issues and so on. So we totally agree that we must go by this way, but with real technical possibilities. we have to change the way of thinking, like in every country, because it's also about citizens, about companies, how to first of all not to be made to produce those things not from plastic but from the other sources which will be like much more responsible. So we have to change the way of thinking. It's not that only there is a regulation, but it should be, but also that we really want that because it's our own responsibility. So there are two ways, regulations and changing of thinking. So education, education, and education.
Thank you. And Estonia.
Yes, I truly believe that each and every country has its own strengths and challenges. So we are not all the same. And it also means that talking about the possibilities that the green economy will bring us, it will also be different for every country. Not everyone can produce windmills or produce electric cars, but we still in the Baltics we have our own strengths. So it's in order to really achieve the goals that we have set for 2050. We need to reach to an understanding what our specific strengths are. But maybe I would just would mention more specifically about waste. So that is clear that waste is not now seen as waste, but as a resource. And there are a lot of opportunities. And I would think also the cooperation here between the Baltic states could be very, very beneficial because all together we are bigger than we are separately. But there we have our own strengths and technology which we could combine in order to find our common strengths. So just to give an example again, so we have pilot projects going on also in the circular economy sector where we are trying to produce new materials from oil shale ashes. So we have hundreds of tons of residues from the old energy production system, and there are actually hidden very many precious materials which we could use in the new economy. So we just have to find ways how to take out from waste those materials that we actually are looking for. So maybe these points that we have been relying on fossil fuels for such a long time. Of course, it's a disadvantage compared to Nordic countries who have their clean energy production already now. However, we have to find those aspects that that brings us forward still, despite the fact that that maybe some challenges are harder for us than for Nordic countries, for example.
Thank you. Nors klausimų turiu dar kokiam 2 valandom, bet labai norisi atsigręžti į auditoriją ir
I
jau
have much more
įtraukti jūs.
questions to ask, but now I would like to turn to the audience. Please provide the microphone.
Labadiena, Remigijus Lapinskas, Žaliosios
Hello,
politikos
Remigijus
institutas, klausimas be abejo
Lapinskas,
mūsų
the Institute
ministrui.
of Green
Ministrai, jūs čia
Policy.
sėdite vienas ir
Minister,
turite
question to
atsakyti
you.
už
You
visas
are on
sritis,
your own here,
nors,
and you
reiškia,
have to be responsible for
verslas
all
nėra
the
toks
fields and
entuziastingas
sectors.
apie
Business is
atsinaujinančius
not that
energetikos
enthusiastic
objektus, kurie
about
turėtų būt
renewable
pastatyti.
energy
Vieni kitiem
objects that
pardavinėja
have to
jau
be built.
turimas galimybės.
They are
Visiškai,
selling the
nelabaikas.
opportunities and the
Tarkim,
permissions to each other.
naujausios ekoschemos žemės ūkyje,
And
kurios,
the newest
siekia
eco
išsaugoti
schemes
pievas daugiametes,
for
šlapynes ir didinti jų skaičių,
the
visiškai
agricultural
nesulaukia
sector
dėmesio.
that are supposed to be
Transporto-
to save
transporto
wetlands are
srityje,
not
pats,
of
taip
interest
sakant, irgi
for
pripažinote, kad
the farmers.
suvartojimas
In
iškastinio
the
kuro auga,
transport
išmetimai
sector, you
didėja.
also see
Ar neatrodo,
emissions
kad
growing.
reikalingi kažkokie tai vis tik tai galbūt netgi struktūriniai pokyčiai?
Don't you think that we need
Arba, galbūt,
essential structural
aplinkos
changes?
ministerijos didesni
Maybe even
įgalinimai
the
su
Ministry of
pinigais
Environment
sprendimo
needs to
teise,
be
vis
empowered
tik tai, kad
more
mes
and
pajudėtume, nes
allocated more
atrodo
money
taip, kad,
and
na,
given a
ministerija,
greater
aplinkos
decision
ministerija
right in
siekia
order
tikrai
to
gerų
make a
tikslų, visi čia
more
pritariam,
visible
okei,
move.
bet,
We do agree
na,
about the
yra
goals
su
that you have
vykdymu
set
yra problemų
for
ir
all of
gali
us,
būti taip,
but
kad
there are
kitos
problems
sritys,
with
reiškia,
implementation
labai stipriai paves.
that
jum
needs
atrodo?
to be
Ačiū.
done in order to move towards those goals. What do you think? Thank you very much for a wonderful question. International organizations also recommended going to the governmental level with all those decisions, but the National Energy and Climate Plan is actually great in terms of setting sectoral goals. If we had this summative goal for all, then we can only restrict ourselves to scolding others and saying you should do this or you should do that. But here we do have sectoral goals, and that is great. So we are speaking about a greater accountability here. The question is whether we are able to implement what we need to implement. There are all kinds of factors that come into play here. We used to have the Agency of Protected Areas, the Environmental Energy Protection Agency, that were served as barriers in general, but now we do not have those barriers anymore. All we need is to continue working in the right direction. We have actually issued all the necessary permissions to install the necessary capacity in wind power generation. I cannot tell you why our businesses are not building those wind power plants. Again, we missed a huge opportunity to tax the old transport fleet. We refused to do so. And now we lack money to make sure that our roads look good. Poland now can be an example to us here. And we seem to be quicker at providing decisions than at implementing them. We never ever previously suggested introducing new taxes. It was up to the Ministry of Finance. But now, during this tenure, we as the ministry suggested several taxes to be introduced, but they were not introduced. Do we need to make a greater pressure? I don't know. I think that self-governance should do more. For example, Kaunas wants to close down their mechanical biological waste management installations. And the fines will have to be paid by the national budget. So here we have a situation where we allocate a lot of money to municipalities, but when they do something wrong, we do not have a mechanism to penalize them. And the situation is the same in waste management and in other areas. I think that a greater pressure should be exerted on municipalities. We shouldn't allow them to decide on themselves alone when we are dealing with the heating sector, transportation, waste management. Municipalities only do their job to the extent that they want. I think that we need to exert a greater pressure here. One more question? The question to the minister. Don't you think that the development of renewable energy sources is overly optimistic? Because now, in 2023, I can clearly say that it was the previous government that promoted it. The prosumers seem to have reached their limits. I don't think that we will achieve any greater generating capacity among the prosumers, but we will need a greater capacity if we want to produce green hydrogen. Yet one more thing is missing. We are speaking about accumulation, but storage will be something that will be lacking. We haven't done anything here. What concerns transport, it is not enough to emphasize electric vehicles only. But we don't pay enough attention to biomethane. We import some of it, but we don't produce that of our own. Biodiesel fuel could actually be produced to a great extent. We need to focus more on that, but we don't do it. We don't have ambitions here related to biomethane or biodiesel. Could you comment on that? And in our plan between stage 9 and 10, we need to carry out serious consultations with the social partners. Soon we will have our government changing. You have to plan those serious consultations with your social partners now. And to finalize, when you speak about housing renovation, we need a lot of support and money for that, and you do not provide that support and money. You haven't done much in that area. And circular economy speaks about 10,000 jobs, new jobs, over the coming years. Can you comment on that? How will you do it? Renewable energy and public transport. What can you say on that? Okay, not to bore our guests, I will be brief. Poland is planning to have 2 nuclear power plants. I don't know what you are in favor of, but well-balanced renewable energy. I'm not competent enough in this particular area, but I would say that renewable energy has a lot of potential that has not been used to the full extent yet. What concerns prosumers, I agree. The previous government has done a lot to enable them to appear, and they have almost reached their full capacity now. We need new cables to connect them to the grid, and it takes a lot of money, and it costs a lot for the prosumers as well to get connected to the grid now. Even to replace, for example, the stoves, we needed to make a lot of changes in the houses. What concerns renewable energy, we see a clear deficit here. Thus, local producers, they benefit the most. I can also say that Lithuania has already done a lot in terms of storage. We have a cell park and we have Kruonis hydropower plant, and the cell plant that has been recently opened will allow us to keep the power supply for a couple of hours until Kruonis hydropower plant switches on. And what concerns National Energy and Climate Plan, we did our best to make it as inclusive as possible. We are now looking for comments from the European Commission. We will not have this amount of money for transformation in the future. It is available now. If we do not spend it in the right on the right spots, we will still need to achieve our goals, and we have to learn our lessons. Some 5 to 7 years ago, the National Paying Agency was distributing the European money for the acquisition of red and green diesel fuels boilers. Some time ago, you could install a private boiler in your own private house for national budget or EU money. Now, we give you part of the money to replace the boiler. So we spent European money on the wrong thing then. Will there be a question to the guests or to the minister? To the guests as well. Raimundas Baltaduonis from the district heating area. Renovation of housing is part of the national program. Certainly, we do see that the Ministry of Energy should also come into play, and the Ministry of Culture has to come into play, because those 2 ministries, they are a huge obstacle for housing renovation. The Ministry of Energy is difficult to talk to. It's a state within the state. It doesn't cooperate with anyone. The Department of Culture is also preventing modernization of housing. For example, Ukmergė is the 7th biggest town in Lithuania. We are located in Vilnius County, and we cannot use European funds to maintain our old town. We have addressed the Ministry of Environment, the Department of Culture, speaking about this problem. We invited them to create a separate tender for old towns. What concerns heating, in the old town we use firewood and coal, and only 0.5% of renewable energy sources are used and centralized heating. I see that these are the key barriers to renovation. Electricity suppliers, key electricity suppliers are actually not allowing to disconnect from the main grid. They do not want to have more prosumers. Their grid is not ready to receive new prosumers. I want to stop your comments now because the minister has already understood your question, and I will now to make this question more specific for our guests. No, I have a question to our guests on renovation. Which buildings are you renovating now? Are you renovating buildings to make them Class A buildings, or are you making them lower class buildings? Please let us, please explain. This is a question to the guests. And how do you deal with the challenge of housing renovation? So there's time for guests to think about the answer to the question. And the minister now wants to answer. Our electricity supplier, main electricity supplier, had 160 million for additional investment to into the distribution grid. But this has not been done. I'm sure that there will be a national audit to find out the reason for that. And as a result, the key electricity supplier in Lithuania will also have to contribute more to switching to renewable sources by individual households. A well-planned national grid is an issue of national security, and we shouldn't make it cheap. You do understand the situation that we have in cases of blackouts and how damaging it is to our economy. Thus, in order to avoid our individual households having their own individual accumulators, we need to invest into a really sustainable and reliable grid. Now I will invite our guests to comment the situation about the renovation.
To take in account also carbon sequestration in the wood products, but it is for the future.
Thank you.
In Poland, we have a strategy for renovation, and the calculations show that it is more feasible currently, taking into account also the money which are on table and the effect, that we will renovate until, let's say, medium level. It's not till the highest level, but to medium level. I'm not sure whether it won't be updated, the strategy, but currently it is like that. So how it works in Poland, we have main two programs. First of all, it is thermomodernization discount. So even if you are making some investment in your own house for making the house much more efficient, then you can take money for that. Then we have a program which is called Clean Earth, because we have so big problem with low emission. So combining that, the program provides you money for thermomodernization and changing the source of the heat. As you mentioned during your presentation, Mr. Minister, the cheapest energy is this one which is saved. So the energy efficiency, it's very important in this program, Clean Air. So it's not possible for people to get money only for changing the source. But also we pay so much attention to our new buildings. And it's not only about the law, also people take so much attention during like planning their houses, because they want money so detailed. So if they take a look on the changes of prices of energy and how much the energy is in their budget, then they are so often even more willing to pay more for house, for having a much more efficient source of their heat in their new house. So the heat pumps sale is like bumping in Poland. It's probably even easier for Poland to take better conditions for heat pumps than in your countries. But people really are investing so much. So definitely in Poland we are concentrated on individuals. But there are also money for public sector, and I think that it's everywhere the problem with counting the money for renovation, because there will be never enough to give enough money for renovation, and sometimes it's even pointless. If you have very old house, if you think like rationally, it's not feasible to put money in that houses. It's sometimes better to build new one.
Thank you, and Mrs. Christie.
Very good question. We have a goal to fully renovate 22% of our buildings, which have been built before the year 2000. And you asked about the renovation class. So we are aiming to achieve the class C by those buildings. But of course, as everybody else also said, we are also lacking the amount of financing currently. But what we do see is that we need to have the stability in the investment flows, so that also the private sector who needs to be renovating and need to plan well ahead, need to have the reassurance that the financing flows are constant and more or less at the same level.
Ačiū. Thank you. Na ir paskutinis klausimas, iš tiesų,
And
liko
the last
labai
question,
nedaug laiko,
we
tai
have
prašysiu
very
svečių taip trumpai pakomentuoti.
little time, so I would like to have brief answers, maybe visions of yours. Where could we cooperate more as 4 regional countries, where we could together collaborating achieve more results and more tangible results? What are these areas? I would like to go to Warsaw in 3 hours after 5 years, and in Latvia in 2 or 3 hours. or in Estonia. So we have this railway development, which is very helpful. And based on our geopolitical situation, we are late already with the diversification of public transport. So now we have to use our national budget. But I would like to go by train to Europe, to Baltic states, and not to fly by plane as we do now. So this is my pragmatical wish. And of course, I would like to eat local food because our agriculture promotes Lithuanian meat, Lithuanian pork, but we import a lot of food products from third countries, which is not green. And now I would like to have more local food on our tables. But people go to Poland to buy food, you know? Yes, recently also we had bought fuel also in Poland.
I think I can agree, but I think one more issue what I can to add is that we should collaborate in research, because this is very broad area for research and development for not only for technologies but also for decision-making systems, information technologies, and I think that we talked about it yesterday, and I think it is a great possibility to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Mr. Minister, you have stolen my answer. Because I also wanted to say about research. We every country is taking a look on the circumstances, like very deeply how we are the characteristic things. So we have to think in our own way. But then there are so many fields in which we have to cooperate. For example, those new things which are on table: storage, hydrogen. All of things which are on research and development table, because then if you are sitting only on your own desk, you are not able to overthink everything. So cooperation is really, really important. And me as a civil servant, I also really appreciate meetings which are like very working party. Like about talking deeply detailed how we can make things, because sometimes you can be not technical enough in some field, and then you are meeting another person who is like showing you very easy things at the end. So like finding the small things, it's really, really important, because not the big numbers which are on paper as a goals are the most important. It's the most important thing is how to go from bottom to the up. So that's the biggest point for us. And with big projects, we are already on way in electricity, in gas, and so on. So go on.
Thank you. And Mrs. Christie.
So all the points that have been put on the table already are really good. Of course, Rail Baltica is one of the huge goals that we all have, and I really truly hope that by 2030 we have a railway ready. I would, in addition to that, I would point out also the energy sector, because together with Latvia we have a good cooperation project on one offshore wind park. And also, as previously mentioned, circular economy is certainly one of those fields that we could and should cooperate more. Not every country should have their own capability of recycling textiles, for example, or there are other examples as well. So there we should cooperate more.
Thank you. Ačiū visiems iš tiesų.
Thank you very
laikas labai greit
much.
prasidėjo.
The time
Noriu
has passed
padėkoti
very
dar kartą
quickly.
svečiam,
I would
kurie
like
atvyko
to
iš-
thank all the guest presenters from our neighboring countries. It is very nice to see that all the institutions, all the agencies have contributed to the climate change and energy events. Thank you for all the listeners who have participated live, but our broadcasting was seen by 40,000 people today, so it is very nice to see that this question is very relevant for all of us. So in cooperating, in working together, we will definitely achieve the targets. Have a nice day and nice weekend.